While Brazil is considered to be one of the places with the highest Afro descendant population in the Americas, the United States is definitely the most culturally prominent. How do these factors impact the differences and similarities within the natural hair movements and communities in both countries? Let's get into it.
Some of the differences I've noticed between the natural hair community in the US and in Brazil. This is my perspective as someone that was born and raised in Brazil and moved to New York about 9 years ago. First thing is wigs. We won't really see people wearing wigs in Brazil. You might see some famous people wearing wigs, but it's really not that common, especially on the day to day. I've seen some people say it's because we can't afford it, but that's really not it. I feel like just culturally in Brazil, people don't really see a lot of beauty in wigs, to be honest. I would say we either wear our natural hair or we do chemicals so it's straight permanently. Something I've noticed too when I moved here is people used to stop me on the streets to ask if my wash and go was a twist out or a braid out, and I was so confused at first because we don't really do these things that much in Brazil. If you see curly or curly hair, it's 99% of the time just their natural texture. When I moved here is when I kind of learned what is a twist out and what is a braid out. We just do mostly wash and go. I've also noticed we wash our hair more often in Brazil. Might be because of the weather, we just like to shower a lot. Most people shower at least twice a day. I would say we wash our hair at least once a week. Fun fact is that in Brazil we call an afro black power. If you think of anything else or if you disagree with me, just leave it in the comments.
Y'all just saw that TikTok, and I liked her point of view and insight on the differences and similarities. It was short and sweet. And I just wanted to give my observations as well. As someone who's grown up always having natural hair in the United States, and then I also did go to Brazil recently, and I did get some products as well. But I did find the natural hair enthusiasm and prominence really interesting in Brazil. Like, I actually was not expecting that, only because I have my own preconceived ideas of how people feel about natural hair in Latin America. So to come to Brazil and see people like wearing afros was really surprising to me because that's not something I've always seen. So I was really like happy to see that. So I found that very interesting. And then we also have to keep in mind, I mean, technically, they're part of the Portuguese diaspora. It's not exactly the same, but you get what I mean. Like, we're all part of the Americas regardless. Even in the Caribbean, I thought that was very interesting. So I find that contrast to be really interesting in between Brazil and the United States because of some of the things she's going to touch up on. Because I personally believe that the natural hair movement did make a lot of progress and do a lot of good in the United States. But I feel like there are a few things that were not addressed that are keeping some problematic mindsets or problematic ways to continue. But in my opinion, those issues that are happening in the United States are not because of the natural hair movement. It's just different cultural things that I see in also other parts of Latin America and the Caribbean as well. So I want to comment on all of that. But in my opinion, I believe that the natural hair movement was extremely successful and it was exactly what Black women needed. And it was a small positive thing that Black women actually decided to do for our self and confidence, self image, even social issues to a degree, workforce discrimination, all that type of stuff. That was one of the few movements that Black women have actually like taken on for ourselves and censored Black women and girls' experiences and needs in that. So I will always ride for the natural hair movement, period. And as somebody who knows how difficult it was, me and my family know how difficult it was having natural hair in the past. You will never hear me talking negatively about the natural hair movement. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is going to be 100%. But I can almost assure you, I'm sure Brazil looked very different 20 years ago, 30 years ago, shoot, even 15 years ago. I am sure that people had a very different perception of natural hair. So that is what matters. But anyway, let's get into the commentary about her TikTok. This girl also has basically like the same phenotype as me, like type 4 hair, basically same skin tone, similar features, eye color, everything. So I can definitely relate to what she's talking about. I even went to Argentina and they thought I was Brazilian out there. That was a whole thing. Notice I'm not saying it in a positive way. I'm not saying that there's anything bad about that, but it was a thing. Let me just say that. So yeah. I have a lot of references and experiences to how people treat women with natural hair in different parts of Latin America. But anyway, so going back to Shorty's video, so one thing that I really thought was interesting that she brought up in her video was wigs and the difference in perception between Brazil and the United States. So with the wig thing, I definitely observed this as well. Now I'm gonna be honest, when I was in Brazil, I did not pay attention to the fact that I didn't see a lot of people wearing wigs. I really didn't think nothing of it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't notice that. But now that I watched her video and she said it, looking back, I'm like, oh snap, I definitely did notice that. So when I went and I actually posted a little flicky flick, so maybe I'll post it here. I have my little touristy Brazil outfit on. I had to. I know I'm a bird. But yeah, so yeah, I had braids when I went. My homegirl had braids as well. So I would say that we did kind of give American just because of how our outfits and everything was. But you know what I mean? I didn't feel out of place either. But I'm really glad. I mean, I would never wear a wig on vacation. I feel like that's weird, but I don't judge, but that's just me personally. I don't understand that, but I just don't give it up like that. I usually always go for braids because I don't want to have to deal with the drama of hair, when I'm on vacation. I much rather invest in makeup. So yeah, and I feel like I'd rather spend time doing that than having to worry about my hair and everything. But anyways, so yeah, I wore braids, so I didn't feel out of place or anything, but I remember being there and feeling like, oh snap, I wish I had my hair curled. I wish I had my hair out, because I'm that type of person. Like, when I see girls with their hair out or wearing an afro or something like that, or like in a really cute niche outfit, I'm like, oh snap, I wish I had my hair out. Like, I want to wear skimpy outfits and do hot girl shit with my friends and not be wearing this corporate slave attire. Like, I'm definitely that type. Like, shoot, once it gets hot outside and I have to go to work, I feel like that is inhumane. But anyway, with the braids, I did notice that me and my homegirls were the only ones that had braids, and they had like the twists and everything. And I didn't feel out of place, but I did notice I didn't see a lot of that. And if I did see the braids, they were like the typical like box braids. So I can definitely see the goddess twists and the braids that I had. I had like Fulani braids. Those seem to be like more of an American thing. I didn't see a lot of people with cornrows or braids out there, I will say. But yeah, I definitely did not see wigs. And so when she said that, I was like, oh snap. But I do have to be completely honest. I agree with her that in Brazil, but I would say in Latin America in general, there isn't a lot of beauty scene in wigs, but I feel like that's across the board everywhere. Like, that's not something specific to Latin America. That's in North America too, because even when people wear pieces, it's usually like to make the hair look longer, fuller, something like that. And if people do wear wig, obviously like black women do, it's made to not look like it's a wig. It's made to look natural. So I get what she's saying, but that is true what it is, but that's kind of true everywhere. But I think that what it is in the United States, and this was kind of going to be the premise of my video, is that, and this extends to Afro descendant culture in general, there's a big emphasis on having your hair done. So I noticed that, this is just my theory, that the people who were like religiously getting their hair washed and set like every 2 weeks, whatever, or doing a perm, those types of people probably stopped straightening their hair chemically or with heat, but probably went to wearing wigs. And it comes from this mentality culturally that we have, that your hair needs to be done. And this is not specific to North America. This is African culture in general. So yeah, this mentality of like your hair needs to be done, that remained in the natural hair movement, and I feel like that's where a lot of these issues are stemming from. It's not that people are not embracing natural hair, but it's one, internalized texturism wasn't addressed. We were just focusing on styling, which is good, but there's also a psychological and a self-love layer of wearing natural hair that a lot of people don't get into, or that can't really be solved through YouTube videos. Reality is people still kept with that mindset that, oh, your hair needs to be done. And I feel like a lot of the people who stopped probably getting perms, or like I said, going to the salon consistently, they're probably just doing wigs now. And they were probably also the same girlies that are probably my age and older millennials that were probably doing sew-ins, or they were doing the glue-in wig or tape-in extensions, and then the the gluing weave and all that, like that's probably what they were doing, and then now that's just out of style, so now they're doing wigs. So it just comes with this mentality of having your hair done, and that's across the Americas. But yeah, like she said, most people are either chemically straightening it or they're perming it or whatever with heat. But yeah, that's where I feel like it's coming from. So it kind of became like old fashioned in the United States to get a perm or even to really go to the hair salon consistently. So people just switched over to wigs. That's what I feel like happened. Also, wigs became more accessible to the masses. I distinctly remember when this happens. I remember when people switched over from sew-ins to wigs. They're easier for a regular person to put on themselves. You don't necessarily need to be a hairstylist like you do for a weave or even really to straighten your hair if unless you got a whole day to waste. So yeah, I see how that happened in the United States. So that's not at any fault of black women in the United States. It's just a matter of convenience and what happened in the world and economics and everything like that. And then what was I gonna say? Yeah, in Latin America as well, yeah, wigs are definitely seen more for like older people and things like that. And I think that that's pretty much everywhere, but I've kind of talked about that in other videos too, about how a lot of people are very concerned with the hair looking super real, and like they only want to deal with clip ins or anything just if they look like they're actually a real hair. But yeah, so something she mentioned was that people either wear their hair natural or they like chemically or with heat, I would assume, straighten it. And yeah, I noticed that as well, and I would argue that's kind of something that's more specific to Brazil because there is a growing prominence of natural hair care and of like kinky hair and afro hair in other parts of Latin America, but I do feel like it's not as embraced in like the Caribbean, like maybe Cuba, DR, like Puerto Rico. Like it's starting to change, but that's more of the new generation. Like that's like people my age, like maybe in their early 30s, Gen Zers, things like that. Some millennials as well. But honestly, even a lot of my friends that are my age, if they do wear their natural hair, if or curly or something like that, that's relatively new for them within the last 5 years or something. Even wearing braids, and I've talked about this, I have so many people in my life that say this was their first time ever getting braids because they knew people were going to talk about them, or they just were always told it was not good or whatever, you know what I mean? Just different things. So this embracing of natural hair and being very comfortable with wearing afros and kinky curly hair and it not being processed or styled in any type of way, to me, as a default, that seems to be something that's very specific to Brazil. It's starting to change in other places, but it's like happening slowly. And I've spoken about this before, that I feel like Latin America and the Caribbean is like 15 years behind the United States when it comes to these topics. Even when it comes to colorism, they're like still in the 2000s. Like this is becoming more of a new thing, but it's more niche. Like there are young people who talk about this. I follow some people that speak Spanish and that are also like Jamaican and stuff like that talk about these things, but it's mostly the younger generations. It's not a mainstream thing like it is the United States. Definitely not the natural hair thing. So I feel like that is something that's very specific to Brazil and the United States as well. Now natural hair care is mainstream and it's becoming like a default hairstyle for black women. Whether people want to be honest about this or not, having afro and natural hair is becoming a default for most black women in the United States. Is not, especially if you're in certain academic or professional spaces, having natural hair is not niche anymore. So I don't know where these people are at that they don't see people wearing their hair. That tells me more about where you be at than anything. But yeah, so I feel like that's something that's more specific to North America and Brazil. Other places are still moving slower with that. Definitely in Cuba, DR, I can't really speak for like other places in Central America, but I would assume it's the same thing. I was in DR like 4 or 5 years ago. I was there relatively recently, and I didn't notice as many people wearing afros as I did in Brazil. And even amongst my friends that's Dominican, they even be talking to me about how they have a lot of issues with their family members that are not that much older than them, that be giving them a hard time about wearing their hair curly or why haven't you have gotten your hair done XYZ. So a lot of people are still stuck in like an old fashioned mentality with that when it comes to natural hair. So she mentioned that she became aware of things like wash and goes when she came to the United States. And I found that really interesting because it kind of connects right back to what I was talking about earlier, that we definitely have a fixation on the hair being done, being styled. Like I said, I feel like that's across the African diaspora, but that's definitely something that's big in the United States. And that's some people's issue with the natural hair movement, because they feel like it focused too much on definition, or that it favors certain textures or XYZ. I'm going to be honest with you, those types of people who have those like kind of nitpicky complaints, in my opinion, they're majoring in minors. Like, that's a valid conversation, that's a valid thing to point out or whatever, but the overall goal of the natural hair movement succeeded in what it wanted to do. So it's like, you, and I hate to be this type of person, but it's like, if you don't know how things were before a movement happened, you can't say it didn't work. It's just like, this is an extreme case, but it's just like those people who try to say, oh, we were better off before segregation. How ignorant and self-absorbed can you be that you're gonna say that you were better off before a civil rights movement that gave your ass more rights? Like, so it's like, there's a lot of people today that have a hard time seeing that hindsight is 2020 and seeing that all you can do is build off of what's already been accomplished and do better from there and just keep moving forward. You can't say something failed because you had personal gripes with it and you don't know how difficult it was post this movement. So that's just annoying to me. And that kind of gets into my commentary about this whole concept of like it being styled and things, because so her talking about it being styled versus people just washing it and going, yeah, that issue is more so connected to a lot of people feeling like you need to constantly be styling your hair. And one of the points about natural hair is that you really don't have to do that. Really, your hair texture is going to do what it's going to do. You can set it in rods and you can, put the creams and everything in it. And I mean, that lasts for a few days. It's cute. But then by the fourth day, your hair texture and how it reacts to the product is coming out. So I always kind of feel like those types of styles were not a waste of time, but they were like short reward, long investment. You know what I mean? And I think that at this point in time, people are kind of realizing that, because I don't even see a lot of people pushing like, wash and goes or anything like that. I don't know. To be honest, I don't watch natural hair videos anymore because it's like, I just don't. But yeah, I feel like that's directly connected to this need that people feel to have the hair styled and done. With one of the points was you can just put product in it and go. And I'm bringing this up because I noticed in her comment section, you had some people, I'm assuming they were Black American, and telling her, oh, well, girls in Brazil have looser hair textures because y'all are more mixed. So it's easier for you to just wash your hair and go. And I just feel like that's so ignorant and closed-minded to perpetuate and even believe about yourself, because I'm assuming these were Black American girls saying that, and it's just dumb. And I'm not trying to make it seem like I have some insider information, because I was just at the touristy parts like everybody else. But honestly, if you go to Brazil, the Black people out there really do not look any different than the people in North America. And the reason why y'all are saying that is because y'all have this idea in Brazil that everybody is this multiracial, light-eyed, blonde, curly afro haired person, and that's just not how it is. That is a narrative that nations in Latin America have exported to the rest of the world, so y'all could fetishize Latin America and y'all could come there and participate in sex tourism. That's not to say that these nations are not made up of predominantly mixed race people, but you have to wonder, why is that idea so heavily pushed? But then you go there and you see a bunch of Black people running around. Then you go to different parts of Brazil and you see a bunch of white people that are 90% European running around. Not to say, again, it's not predominantly mixed nations, but I just think that is weird that y'all will attach on to that nationalistic rhetoric and then get in other Black women's comment sections and use that as an excuse to why people are putting overemphasis on styling in the natural hair movement. It's just silly. I would also appreciate if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already and the content resonates with you. Welcome, as well as making sure you hit the bell for notifications so you'll be informed every time I upload a new video or go live. I'd also encourage you to check out my Patreon, where you can access old and exclusive content, as well as having early access to new uploads. That will be linked in the description box below. And yes, I'm being tongue in cheek by saying that. But to be honest, the real historical reason and political reason that so many nations in Latin America and the Caribbean pushed that narrative during the early 1900s and literally imported Europeans, we all know this, but yeah, the reason why they did that is to GMO a society where there are a bunch of Afro descendant people who feel disconnected psychologically, culturally, whatever, from other Afro descendant people so that they could politically neutralize them and so that they could create a nationalistic narrative that says we're all unified, but that's not the reality of what's actually going on. So when you make these blanket statement narratives that, oh, Brazilian girls have looser hair because they're Brazilian, oh, Cardi B has long hair because she's Dominican. Meanwhile, y'all sitting in front of what looks like two light-skinned black women with type 4 hair telling y'all about natural hair care, and you still trying to push this mixedness narrative. That shows that you bought into the narrative that was created by Europeans. And that means it also worked because she's over here trying to talk about natural hair. You the one bringing up, the difference in hair textures based on ancestry. It shows that people of African descent have bought into that. And there is nothing scientifically that says being mixed means that you can grow hair and being monoracially black means you don't. Like, so where's this even coming from? And it's like, I don't like that so many other black women have internalized that because it's just not true. It's about maintenance. So I just wanted to really clear that up because it's just really toxic. And I think y'all need to understand where this rhetoric is coming from. It's not coming from quote unquote protecting your image or not being erased. Mind you, you see this girl sitting in front of you that if y'all didn't know she was Brazilian and y'all thought she was from Virginia or California or wherever, y'all wouldn't be none the wiser that she wasn't a black American girl. So why even push that narrative? And that's why I even get irritated with the whole like mestizaje narratives that come out a lot in America too, because a lot of people have a weird idea about the mixedness and the different, combinations and what nations are who and who's Afro Latino and who's not. It's just really annoying to me. But yeah, I just feel like that was toxic for them to be in her comment section saying that like, oh, girls in Brazil have looser hair textures, because that's not a healthy mentality to have, because not everybody in Brazil is heavily mixed. And it's genuinely a shame to me how many Afro descendant people of whatever variation have decided to buy into the fake race science that Europeans have historically fed to this society in order to keep people down and to literally work against them. Yet y'all have chosen to buy into that and even align to it. I genuinely hate that for y'all. But anywho, and I notice people doing this right now with Cardi B announcing that she's coming out with a hair care brand. And even long before she announced this launch, whenever she would post her hair growth and give tips or anything, a lot of people would comment to her saying, oh, you have that hair texture because you're Latina and you're mixed and your hair is obviously going to be long and blah, blah, blah. And she even had to address it a few times. I'm 90% sure I did a video about it, but I don't even remember at this point because I've done so many videos that talk about this similar type of topic. The fact that there's even content for me to even make content and react to says everything you need to know. Like, the problem is not me here, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I did a video about that and she had to address it. And I'm just like, what is productive about commenting that or saying that? Because say there's a 4C girly or a girl who has tighter curls or whatever who's not mixed reading that comment, and now you discouraging her from growing her hair when that's been disproven long ago. This is 2026, not 2006. We have plenty of evidence that you can have any hair texture and grow it long. It's about maintenance, care, styling, all that type of stuff, coming up with your routine, being consistent, vitamins, health, all of that type of stuff. So it has nothing to do with genetics. This has been long proven. So I don't understand why a lot of the main people who push these types of narratives, they present themselves as being woke. What is woke about telling other black women that because they're non-mixed or because they're not from this regional territory in a different part of the Americas, that they can't grow long hair or that they have easier or harder time taking care of their hair? I just feel like that's not productive and it's toxic and it defeats the purpose of what the natural hair movement was about. And I find it so funny because a lot of these same people will be the people who say, oh, the natural hair movement is toxic because it only focused on XYZ hair textures and whatever, whatever. But to me, I feel like they're just kind of focused on the wrong things because I feel like the natural hair movement was about working with what you got. But yeah, because like there are a lot of mixed people out there, but there are also a lot of monoracial black people out there who have the same hair textures and the same admixture range as people in North America. So I just feel like that was inappropriate to even bring up. And it's also not realistic and it's not healthy to have that mentality, and y'all believe that because of the nationalistic rhetoric that's put out. That's why I'm bringing that up. Because it's like, who told you what the genetic and hair texture average of most Afro-Brazilian people are? Like, I don't understand that. I feel like the natural hair movement was about working with what you got and learning your hair type and, developing self love from there and really developing a relationship with your hair, because there are so many people across the diaspora who don't really know what their actual hair texture looks like. So it's always rich to me that y'all get in these comment sections and tell fibs and lies that just because certain people are mixed or have certain genetics that they're gonna have one type of hair or not, because most of the people that I know that have loose hair or silky hair are darker skin. You can't look at them and automatically tell what they are. That doesn't mean that they're automatically mixed or whatever. And then there's plenty of people who are super light skinned who have tight forehair as well, kinky hair, even 4C hair. I had that in my family, light skinned people with 4C hair and light eyes. So these conversations are dumb as hell. I can't believe that we still have to have these conversations in 2026. And the main people who still be saying this type of stuff are people who present themselves as being woke or advocates for black women and girls. Like, how is this helpful to anybody? How is that helpful to any group? Like, mind you, Cardi B has been very vocal about having hair issues. So it was like literally you disproving your whole point. Even if that is true that her genetics do impact your hair texture, which they do, that doesn't negate that other hair textures or other people who are not mixed can also grow long hair. That's the conversation. That's the thing. Like, Cardi B has showed her before and after pictures. She's shown the results after putting in that work and being consistent to a routine. So like I was saying, even if your genetics do impact your hair texture, that doesn't mean that people who do have mixed genetics don't have issues with their hair as well, or haven't struggled with breakage or being called bald headed or whatever it might be. Like, it's like to try to make it seem like just because you have a certain phenotype that you're not going to experience that type of stuff is just weird. And that's why I keep having to make these videos, because it's 2026 and y'all keep trying to push this narrative. Shorty released that hair care thing last week. Y'all already on the bullshit. Like, but yeah, in conclusion, the last thing that the Brazilian girl mentioned in her video was that another major difference between United States natural hair community versus Brazilian natural hair community is that they wash their hair more often. And I absolutely think that this has contributed to climate and probably just lifestyle as well. Honestly, I feel like the United States is just like, I don't know, like people talk about self-care, but the type of self-care that goes into natural hair and just regular girly stuff in the United States, a lot of people don't want to apply that time to spending to doing hair or something like that. They rather spend time doing something else, which is where the whole styling things come in and going to the stylist. So I wonder if it's part of that and then incorporated in with, yeah, lifestyle. It might be easier just keep your hair straightened for some people. I don't know, but I think a lot of it has to do with lifestyle in combination with the weather. So yeah, that's where I think that comes from. I don't think it's anything specific, but also if you are used to going to the hairstylist and getting your hair done, you're probably not going to be washing your hair as consistently yourself, and I feel like that goes into it. I only do my hair myself. I've said this multiple times. I do not deal with hairstylists. So I wash my hair every like 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks, depending on the style. My hair doesn't need to be washed that often. That's just me. People can think that's whatever. I don't really care. I bet my hair always smells better than yours, wig or not, whatever got going on. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but that's also the lifestyle I have. I physically do not have time to wash my hair every 2 days. It would be impossible for me. Impossible. And yeah, I work a regular like 9 to 5 job, whatever. Do not have the time to do it, especially when I go back to school. Yeah, absolutely not. So I really do think lifestyle plays a big part into it as well. Yeah, but anyway, get into the comment section, let me know what y'all thought about this video. Have y'all noticed any differences between the natural hair community in the United States or other countries, and what were some similarities or differences, positives or negatives you've observed? Thanks for the support. Peace.